So as you know, Trump and his billionaire buddies want to roll back the country decades. And essentially, these are the kind of headlines that we're looking at today. Trump revokes 1965 order banning discrimination in federal hiring. So he's going after the Civil Rights Act. And this is coming on the heels of Martin Luther King Day. Basically, Trump represents those people that, back in the day wanted school segregation, wanted separate bathrooms, all of these things. He wants to roll it all back. And it's frankly a shame. I knew this kind of stuff was coming. Did I know it was going to come this quickly, that Trump would try all of these things? Not necessarily. But it has multiple ramifications for so many people out there. And it's just an old style way of thinking. This is, again, you're trying to roll back stuff that we, decided on in 1965. It cuts to, like, say, in history of the USA, it's just real. Some people really wanted school segregation. They wanted, colored kids to go to different schools than the white kids. Or some people wanted different bathrooms, right? The colored bathrooms and the white bathrooms. There's some people who live in that world, want that world. And Trump, he's an old guy. He kind of represents that old kind of guard/boys club. And, you probably can guess the feelings I have on all this stuff. There's a lot to go over. I also want to go over some of your thoughts, letting you know on the news. This comes from Swirlscape on Etsy. This person says, when you think your new job is going to be C-level, cutting trillions from the federal budget, but it actually turns out the boss considers you an unpaid intern and just wants you to manage the website and take down a couple of pages. And I make a joke, yeah, that's basically it. What that refers to is, if you don't know, they've been making tons of changes, that's the Trump people, to the White House and government websites, taking down, pages referencing DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Changing the way that we fire and hire people, actually. So I think Trump told a bunch of employees to go on leave. There's going to be a lot of legal ramifications on that. I don't know if you can just legally tell people just to go away when you're federal employees. And then on top of that, right, you're putting Elon Musk in charge, and Elon and Musk and Trump have a history of not paying people, and essentially want the spotlight and the cameras and cause as much chaos as possible because they don't care about regular people's lives. This is it's upsetting and troubling. On top of that, so I'm trying to go over everything. Herrick says, "Hey Chris, can you address the Trump's pardon of 1,500 criminals?" So that, yes, that's the January 6th stuff. Some of these people were violent criminals, attacked police officers at the Capitol building. I don't really have anything good to say about January 6th. What can you say? Trump's a felon. He spread the big lie for everywhere, lost every court case on that. And now he's pardoning a bunch of violent people. So there's that. So I'm just saying, acknowledge I see it. I'm not happy about it, of course. Top of that, with Elon Musk in charge and giving these weird speeches, like, for example, you guys see it too. Dan Go Fishing said he's preaching about going to Mars to people that don't believe science is real, which is kind of funny, right? So Trump is partnering with Musk. And Musk just keeps telling people, oh, you need something to believe in. Let's go to Mars, and let's also cut all regulations and government programs. And it's like none of this stuff makes sense. These people are just in it for themselves. They're not really concerned about your life or, ruling in a way that helps everyone. Someone from their side will say, EQ Shen, why don't you just ride the bubble rather than fighting it, right? Let's just all jump on that AI robot bubble. I'll kiss up to Trump so we can get those sweet interviews. That's a lot of people in media are up to these days. Someone else replied, Zid says, because some people have moral values. That's my point of view on this stuff. If people ever ask me, how do I stay young? I have a clear conscience. I don't have to always just, chase all of the money all of the time. I feel uncomfortable. Like if I had to, tell you lies that Trump is awesome and that kind of stuff, I would feel very uncomfortable with that. So it's not worth it to me, but everyone has a different point of view. Some people just want to, kiss the boots. Or lick the boots, I should say. Diana says, talking about tech, as soon as I heard they were going to do with the Stargate program, I knew it was too good to be true. Basically, every charlatan and con man in the world is going to stand at the White House door to get a package of $500 billion for their tech product, Bitcoin or NFT or tech product. He says, gullible as they come. Yes, it's if it's too good to be true. And like I said, I really appreciate y'all having y'all in the community because you guys can see what's going on too. It's multiple things; they're all connected, but it emanates from having the oligarchy at the top. You also have this: Mexico will pay for it, right? So, and I made a joke. Yeah, just waiting to hear when Canada going to start paying for stuff too. Made a comment. We won't need a hero when the villains are fighting amongst themselves. Well, that's what we're seeing. And that's the other thing is too is I'm for Team America, and kind of the stuff that I always tell you guys about is we need to institute sort of a plan and policies in place that benefit everyone, not just a few people at the top. And what the people at the top do at the moment with the Trump and stuff, they just try to get you to all blame each other and blame the dark people, blame the vulnerable people. Oh, it's all the trans fault. That's kind of stuff that they want you to think, which is frankly ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous, but unfortunately, they convince enough people to go for it. John says Reservoir Doges, referring to the movie Reservoir Dogs, and the basic, just as the criminals all start fighting each other. This AA asks, Ashley says, can you just run for office, referring to me, so I can be confident a good person is in charge? And I mentioned my book. If you don't know, I grew up in USA. I'm a USA citizen. I can't be president because I was born in Vietnam, but yes, I could run for other offices. However, when I did look into those kind of things, I'll just say I completely understand how these political machines work. It is a machine, and regardless of party, they want you to look a certain kind of way. I don't look the way that people want in USA. They prefer certain kind of candidates. I'll let you guys be the judge of that. It is a shame though that that's sort of the world of USA. It's been like that for years. I've always known that since I'm growing up. And I was really hoping that we would move beyond that kind of stuff. But the Trump people, they want to push, things backwards and again, roll back civil rights era stuff from 1965. And then on top of that, appoint all of their people that are, bootlickers. They want to appoint, industry people that come in and figure out ways to profit off of government. Like these are the kind of headlines that you get throughout the day. 2 chemical industry officials will help oversee EPA chemical rules. Of course they will, right? Of course they will. On top of that, you got the Justice Department orders investigations of any city, state officials who obstruct immigrant enforcement. Already, Trump and there are people that are sending the military to the border. Whether or not they send military to come and do the deportations, and then will we have some crazy, you could call it jurisdiction fights between, say, with Trump's orders and try to deport people, and then maybe some cities or governors, states, maybe try to protect families, these kind of things. I don't know what's gonna happen with that. I'll just say it could get really, really, really ugly, as I've mentioned it before. Recently there was a bishop. I don't have a picture of it here, but I'll just say there was a bishop. I saw the little bit of it, and she was giving a sermon and I think Trump was there, Vance was there, et cetera. But she's basically saying, we have to take care of the vulnerable people, the people who, roof our houses, prepare our food, take care of our kids. And this is a large part of our of society in the USA, right? You have many illegal immigrants. I'm just telling you that it's true. They are illegal, but they're fabric of society. They pay taxes. They're your neighbors. They don't necessarily all commit crimes. That's why the Trumps must always try to say all these people are criminals, and then their kids are actually citizens because they're born in the USA. So it is a deeply complicated issue. So like I said, I wish people have an honest conversation about this. I understand some people cross the border illegally. I completely get that. I've said this several times that there are many issues with this. Like one, will the Americans do these jobs that the illegal immigrants do? I don't know. That remains to be seen. Will Americans do it? What happens to our economy when, say, you deport all these people and you have all these jobs that are empty? We were just talking about in, I think it was Nebraska, the meat packing plants. They, at least the Chamber of Commerce claims that they don't have enough workers for those kind of jobs. I don't know. I'm just saying that's what they claim. It's hard to say for these kind of stuff if people don't actually have honest discussions about these things. I grew up in Oregon. I picked berries in the fields. I can just tell you it's hard work. It doesn't pay that much. But that's what I did when I was a kid. It was in order to pay for things. And, when people come, across the border to basically work in the fields, they want to make enough money to send back to their families and those kind of stuff. And so I always feel very uncomfortable when we're basically just people that work in the field. Like you paint these people like all being all criminals. I think that's ridiculous. But it goes back to sort of that, how can I say, we'll say historical roots of USA, to where some people, want to live that plantation life where they sit on the porch and, treat everyone else like, field hands essentially. And that's kind of where we're going with the billionaires club controlling the top. That they're not really concerned about regular people, and they pretend like they are. On top of that, you got these crazy reports, because you have to think about, put it in context of stuff we're seeing in the news. This was a weird one. Here's why you might suddenly be following Trump on Instagram and Facebook. So people are like, wait, what? I'm not following these people. So remember Facebook and Zuckerberg, they're all going to the Trumper side, I guess. Remember that he was hanging out with Dana White, and then essentially what it was, I guess they switched the accounts. So if you were following Barack Obama or something like that, then all those followers then get transferred to Trump, because I guess now they're making like a single president account or something. And then people who tried to unfollow Trump, this is what they said. They said that they couldn't unfollow him if you're following him. So if you're wondering, like, why can't I unfollow this guy? The Facebook's claiming that they're getting too many, requests to unfollow, so it doesn't work. I don't know. I don't know. That kind of stuff, I honestly don't know. And for those of you in computers, you can let me know if that sounds like a bogus claim or not. But this is sort of what we talk about in this community. But I can tell you what is happening though. I mean, I do see it. There's crazy changes on their website. So someone make the joke about the website, but this is real. It says the Spanish version of the White House website has vanished again. It's a lot of this kind of stuff, right? It was kind of like I showed you guys before, and I haven't checked their latest website recently, but like I showed my wife, and she saw it right away. If you saw my last video on it, it was there's 4 people's pictures on the White House website: Donald Trump's, Vance, and then you have Melania, right? They had, all 3 of them had official kind of photos, like portraits, like official photos. Where then Usha, who's I think she's Indian American or Indian descent, I'll say. She just had like a regular photo, not a portrait. And it was kind of obvious. It was like how it stood out being different than the other 3. That kind of stuff, right? You'll see. Or you'll see the removal of the Spanish page, right? Or you'll see when Trump wants to, roll back civil rights era 1965 stuff. Like I said, there's some people who want to go backwards, and I'll let you guys, you can decide who you want to be. I'm not that kind of person, of course. But it's a shame. And a lot of it is due to, economic pressure that a lot of people feel, which I completely understand. That's why we go over the money stuff and the tariff stuff and these things, because there's too much misinformation, disinformation out there. Some of it's on purpose. They don't want you to think about, hey, let's not think about global economies. Let's not talk about, real numbers. Let's just blame vulnerable people. That's sort of how the Trump people want to think. And unfortunately, if the economy goes even worse with Trump's policies, we'll just say the tariffs and making enemies out of our trade partners, it could get really ugly. On top of, we're still dealing with the crazy amount of money printing and fiscal policies from the great financial crisis, because now we're building all this, AI, crypto, whatever nonsense is, throwing all this money. And people keep asking the same thing. They're just like, if people don't have enough food for eggs, or putting food on the table, or people don't have jobs, how is this like crypto nonsense gonna solve our problems? And Trump and his wife are doing a crypto pump and dumps right now. It's crazy. If you don't know, because someone in the comments, they don't know what a pump and dump is. Basically, it's a way for them to get foreign money in, dark money, right? Pump and dump is sort of where you have an asset ahead of time, and then you just market it all after you own it, right? To get a bunch of other people to buy it, and then you sell while other people are buying. But you do insider trading stuff, and you make it unfair. It's a scam. That's the best way to say it. It's a scam. Or you could say it's like a Ponzi, things based on air or nothing. And then you got this, like there's so much to go over. Trump moves to paralyze a watchdog agency protecting privacy and civil liberties. So now we're going after that kind of stuff. It just, I was thinking about this yesterday. The best way to describe it to people is, because they want to deregulate, remove laws, quote, simplify things. There's a reason why you pass laws when you do, right? So, for example, I'll give you a simple example. Let's say we develop a new type of vehicle. Okay, we'll say flying cars. Let's say we develop flying cars someday, right? Maybe we don't have rules in place for like flying cars because we've never had these things before. So then you got like, okay, we got to write some legislation, like how big should the batteries be? How many people should be in these cars? How should we classify these flying cars? Like by weight, by speed? Should we put limits on how fast these things go, etc. Right? The same way, like I'm just talking about cars. I kind of like to talk about lots of different things. Is when we first invent cars, maybe in the beginning, no one wore seatbelts. It wasn't really a thing. And I'm old enough to remember when, like, I don't know, people didn't like wearing seatbelts. And then we when I was in Oregon, they passed laws to wear seatbelts, and it's like a bunch of people were really annoyed with seatbelts. I remember that. And then now today, kids don't care anymore. Just put on the dang seatbelt. It works, right? It's stuff like that. And the best way to describe it today is like Trump comes to the office, it's like, you know what? When I grew up, there were no seatbelts when I was a kid. I'm however old he is, 78 or whatever. And I want to go back to when I was a kid, how things were, right? I want white people to go one bathroom and colored people to go another bathroom and get rid of seatbelts. And it's like, well, there's a reason why we got rid of, your old culture. It wasn't really good, healthy, sustainable. And it's multiple things like that, right? There's a reason why I say today we talk more about recycling. Like it's not a bad idea to recycle. In fact, it's a good idea to recycle, right? Or these days we take science more seriously, talk about climate change, global warming. But I understand, depending on your point of view, if you're trying to profit off old systems or you're trying to just, only hire your family and friends, which is what Trump likes to do. He likes to put his name on everything and hire only his family and friends, institute a system of cronyism. Then you want to roll back everything that you possibly can and get rid of transparency, all this kind of stuff. And I guess now we're getting rid of your privacy and civil liberties. It's just any number of things. When you add it up all together, the best way to describe it is he just wants to go backwards in time when just a few people controlled everything and get rid of any kind of equality or equal chance for people at the bottom and figure out ways for them to maintain power. And these kind of people, they essentially always, all the time, it's just get you really, really angry, right? They want to get you really angry all the time and blame the most vulnerable people. That I'll be truthful with you too, and I tell you the truth. There's a lot of people struggling out there, and it's a tough system because things change, industries change, the skills required to be successful in today's economy change, where the jobs are and what cities that may change. And you have to adjust to the changes as time marches forward. Some people want to live in the past, and that's what Trump's want to do, wants to roll things back, but it's not going to help those kind of people. In fact, you're just telling them lies and making it worse. And it's unfortunate with his policies. It's very clear that it's not really going to help people. It's going to make things worse. And I guess to want to make it clear, just on top of all the deals and the problems in the USA is part of a global system, which a lot of YouTube channels and the news doesn't talk about. Most news in USA is focused on USA only. I'll simplify it as simple as possible. If China, for example, is having a meltdown in real estate right now, and no one has any money or worried, and also too, they can buy cheaper Chinese goods, do you think they're going to buy American products? Do you think they're going to buy iPhones? And if the dollar is strong and their currency is weak, making American products more expensive, do you think they're going to buy iPhones? No, they're not, right? So these kind of things. Or if the USA has factories in China, and then Chinese companies can, get basically the magic formula, the tech specs of whatever companies, they can start producing their own stuff. Or you take a look at something like Europe. If there's a war going on over there, there's a shortage of energy, inflation's going through the moon over there, and then you also have people living longer, problem with paying for everyone's pensions, right? Various countries in Europe. Similar thing in East Asia. People are having less kids, people are living longer, creates imbalances in society. And then you have the American situation where, people associate the change of civil rights with the changes in the economy, but it's not really that. You have to think about like America, you could make the case was peaking post World War II, because everyone else, every other country in the world was destroyed, and the USA factories were still operational. And so there was a lot of wealth, to the USA as they rebuilt the world and started building a strong economic system. And essentially countries end up catching up to the USA, which we saw. If you guys remember, say the 80s, everyone was worried that Japan was going to take over the USA. I remember that. I lived through it. It was all based on racism, perfectly frank. Japan obviously didn't take over the USA, if you remember this. And then, Trump tries to stoke fear of China. He does it all the time. And now he tries to stoke fears like, oh, yeah, the Mexicans are all going to, take your jobs. And essentially what it ends up being. And a lot of it's based on lies, racism, fear, etc. And it's a shame. And now he wants to roll all these things back. And, as I talked before in a previous video, in today's day and age in America, there are so many families in America that have all kinds of people that join your family. Because if you live in wherever city you live, there's gonna be different types of groups, and you might find that, wow, I fall in love with someone who doesn't look like me, or I fall in love with someone who's a different religion with me, and you intermarry, and you just have different groups of families. And I don't know, the way people talk about identity, say race or whatever, is so backwards, because you're talking about categories that are human constructions, which is a whole issue if you study sociology or psychology or whatever. It's in your mind, because in the USA, like, people are all mixing with each other, right? So you have all kinds of backgrounds, and so I wish we'd get beyond talking about this kind of stuff, but evidently we still are in the USA, and people are so worried about what other people are like, what clothes they're wearing or whatever. And frankly, when I was in high school, I remember when gay marriage was like a big issue that we're all supposed to be afraid of. I remember this when I was in high school, and as a kid, I was like, why do two people want to get married? And then as I got older, I frankly don't care anymore. It's like, if two people love each other, let them love each other. I have no reason to not, I have no reason to want to stop people from loving each other and having marriage. And it's it's an old issue now, because people say now, I guess it doesn't matter anymore. Now we have to focus on trans stuff, which is just a small portion of the population, and whatever someone is going through, let them do what they do. I've had experience with this kind of stuff. When I made a film here in Korea, my art director, you could call her trans, or him, I guess. It doesn't, I'm not sure. You have to ask her. And it was funny because everyone actually perceived her as a guy, which is really interesting. And I don't know if she ended up getting a surgery or whatever. I don't know. But it just had no relevance to me. It had no relevance to me. It's something I had never really, I don't sit around and all think about, is it a boy or a girl? I don't really care. I just, knew the person is Kim, basically. That's all it was to me. Yeah. And they did a great job, and that's all that mattered. It didn't, and then I didn't realize in her situation until then she brought her, partner, and I was like, oh, okay. And whatever, it's just irrelevant. But, I understand for a lot of people that kind of stuff is really shocking to them, that there could be different types of people out there, or different people might love a different way than you want, or worship a different way than you want. I understand that's shocking to some people, but, the more you're exposed to different types of people, I always say this every single time, get a passport, go see the world. You will realize the world is a really big place. And these Republicans and stuff like that, they just want you to think that the world is really, really small. And, they have a small mind where you only want to hire just a small group of people, right? And everyone else is left off and to fend for themselves. And then when they say what the problem is like, oh, blame the most vulnerable people in our population. So, yeah, I probably talk too much about this stuff. It's a lot to address, and no one's really honest about any of these topics. So that's my thoughts on this stuff of what's going on. I always appreciate your time, and thank you for listening, and I'll catch you on the next video.